Welcome to Bible Over Brews, deep thoughts ferment over time and text. I'm coming at you, Aaron Crew Juice for Verk, and I've got Gumby.
Hola.
And I've got Keith.
This podcast is possessing me right now.
We're doing our Bible Over Brews reviews for the Pope's Exorcist. What we are currently doing is finishing off a little bit of Jaeger. We are doing a future podcast, by the way, for this because Jaeger, we found out, might be the most Christian of all spirits. We're not going to talk about that right now because we literally are talking about doing a full-blown episode on Jaeger and its associations.
I'm sorry, you said Christian and...
With the Gnostics.
So, we are finishing this off right now. Now, before we go dive any deeper at all,
You guys gotta hurry up, I'm already done.
I will tell you that we're going to be trying out the Sam's Club brand Members Mark tonight. There's spicy margarita and there's seltzer. Finding out if it actually holds any water and if it's delicious. Or it sucks. So, before we go any further, Gumby, what have you been up to?
Oh, working a lot. Doing well. Busy schedule for the summer so far. Be going to California soon.
Business or pleasure?
Pleasure. Yeah, thank God. We'll be up north. Sevastopol. We love that area up north. It's outside San Francisco.
Okay. Sevastopol. I've never been to Sevastopol.
Oh my gosh, it's like heaven on earth, really. It's also one of the most volatile places in California, though, because when all those crazy wildfires were happening, they were like, their town was engulfed, surrounded, which is crazy because some of the homes up there are like multi-million-dollar properties. And so, yeah, so it can, the most beautiful places on earth can sometimes also be the most volatile.
That is cool.
But, yep.
Keith?
Been busy, man.
Let's see. I mean, I feel like I already talked about my travel before it happened on a previous episode, so I won't belabor that I've been like to Japan for 2 weeks with a few kids and the 2 different tech conferences in Portland and Kansas City. But other than that,
if I won't rub it in.
Yeah. Other than that, I've been absolutely obsessed, like I think half the world, with The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. If you're not caught up to that, the last one, the Breath of the Wild game, was the one where you get to roam around Hyrule, just kind of do whatever the heck you want. It's a big wide open world, and you have to kill animals and collect their parts and eat them and all these things to heal yourself or whatever. Just tons of aimless exploration. This one, just you get Hyrule on land, and then you get a sky world, and then you might be like so overwhelmed that you got a sky world that you also did notice that you get like a complete underworld too. Like you can just jump into a hole and there's a whole nother world to explore. So the neighborhood children have been half making fun of me and half in awe of me because they all go towards like actually completing the objectives of the game because it's a Zelda game. You're supposed to beat Ganon and save Hyrule, like most of them you've been doing since 1986. But I'm the one who like, oh yeah, I've done 10% of the story, but then they go look at my inventory and my map that I've uncovered, and they're like, oh my gosh, you've got 75% of the map, and you have like a bajillion, Hinox horns or whatever weird things they have. So they're like kind of impressed with me too. So I've been trying to like beef up my open world exploration game even more to just impress like 3 other children besides my own. Yeah.
So would you mark that up as a championship run or a failure?
Wait, what?
It's a role model.
Yeah, there you go.
That's cool. That's cool.
Does your wife get into the video games too, or no?
No, like actually there was a remark in the car this morning, and she was like, my oldest son asked me a question about the game, like that would be just completely nonsense to anybody who hasn't played the game, and I answered like right away, and she's like, how are we even married?
Yeah, that sounds like how my wife would probably be.
Especially for games.
But no, some couples are like both in it very serious together. So it's a legidomed thing.
I gotta say though, like I'm not even a Zelda guy, and if there's two games you would play, like I always told people for years, objectively the best game in history is Legend of Zelda: The Breath of the Wild, the first one for the Nintendo Switch. I might be coming to the point where I say that the second one's even better. So like, if there's like two games, or even just one game you play this decade, like pick one of those, and you won't regret it.
I will. I'll leave it on you because as a small child, well, prepubescent, I got into.
Really, we need to know.
It's funny you say that. Whenever I say that, my kids and my wife laugh at me. They're like, "Seriously, a what?" I really got into fight games.
Yeah.
Now, here's the fun part of this. I realized there's really only 4 major fight engines. Okay, 4 if you include Samurai Showdown, but 4 major fight engines. And if you know them, you can fight any game out there, any of them.
All right, I need to know what the engines are.
Yeah, I was just going to say unpack. So the engine, like what the builder of the games put into them that make them fight whatever moves they have?
Yes.
Okay.
So you have Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
You have Tekken.
Pretty good.
And Street Fighter.
Street Fighter is great.
All right. Samurai Showdown is based on a combination of those, but there are a small stable of games out there that's based loosely inside of those with weapons, and that falls under the Samurai Showdown stable.
So like Soul Calibur would be Samurai Showdown?
More or less.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
So, but almost every other fight game falls underneath one of those other 3. Mortal Kombat, Tekken, or
Street Fighter. But that was my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like if I was going to pick someone to learn how to fight and fight from, it'd be someone from there versus, someone who can shoot out ice from their veins or, what I mean? Something not realistic. Even though that game was pretty cool. I loved Mortal Kombat too. But
Yeah.
I lost my innocence right straight in Mortal Kombat era, like right when the blood code was a thing that everybody memorized.
Yeah. Finish him.
I will say that I think one of the best fight games out there today is Injustice. Injustice takes the raw veracity of, like, say, a Tekken or a Mortal Kombat and combines it with the superpowers of the character, whether it be Batman or Superman or, dude, they're currently on Injustice 2 and I hear Injustice 3. I have the first 2. They're just fantastic. It's fun to be able to play those characters and use their powers at the same time.
Yeah.
So, like, Superman has his heat vision and Batman has his batarangs. And, of course, my favorite DC character is Green Arrow, and he can use all of his arrows as he's fighting. But his combos are his secret weapon. And anybody who plays Green Arrow already knows his combos are his secret weapon. So
nice.
Yeah, Green Arrow is phenomenal. It's my favorite character.
I would agree with you in terms of the engine. I don't know too much about that, or, I can't really, personally, I can't like nerd out in terms of what's behind those things because I just don't understand the code and how it's all built. But, when I play Smash Bros against my son and I pick like the classic characters like Ken from Street Fighter and I
love Ken.
Hey, wait, so what category does Smash Brothers fit in then? I feel like that's different.
For Smash Bros? Yeah, he's in there.
I haven't played enough to know.
Yeah.
That might be a 5th category.
It's
like it doesn't have like a traditional life bar. It's just totally different.
Future discussion will be had.
It's in there. We'll get to our featured podcast here. But whenever I play against him, he's like, Dad, Ken is so lame. He's like, so whatever the newest versions that my son can create himself, like Wii U and from Wii Mario games, whatever he creates, destroys me in every category.
Which, by the way, you were closer in your pronunciation than most people.
What? Oh, you can?
Yeah, no, most people say Ryu. It's Ryu.
Ryu.
Yeah, so you are much closer than most people are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Must be this vinegar I'm drinking.
Can I conclude the fight game section by just saying ABAC, ABB. I still know the blood code. Yes.
Yes.
You mean Konami?
Oh, up, down, left, right, BA select start.
That was it. That was definitely it.
All right.
Sweet.
All right, we rabbit trail.
We will be getting here shortly to Exorcism. I will be right back. I'm going to go grab the spicy margarita.
Oh, thank God.
Please talk.
Yeah. Yep.
About The Exorcist, about fight games. What should we talk about?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm excited about talking about The Exorcist, man. I am a Russell Crowe fan. Was a little bit shocked to see him not look like the Gladiator, though.
Yeah, he looks a little different now.
Yeah, most people like try to slim down and bulk up.
I think he put on a little punch for the
He
role, which is appropriate.
He bulked out without the muscle.
Yeah. So speaking of non-consequential things to talk about the movie, in case I don't point this out later, I wanted to point out that the guy who plays the Pope in the movie, he played the Pope in another movie before, like the year before. I'm trying to remember what the name of this movie is. It is The Man from Rome. I have no idea what this movie is, but the same guy, 2 years in a row, played the Pope. He also has a beard, and I don't know if this is exactly true, but someone said in this commentary about this guy was that like no popes have actually had a beard in recent history. So
Is this true?
I don't know. I feel like Aaron would know better than I would.
That seems
Like,
pretty
I
accurate.
feel like this guy looks enough like the rest of John Paul II that like it makes me think John Paul II could have had a beard, but I don't actually remember him having a beard.
Probably only looks like John Paul with the beard.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
And that could be a whole interesting category of like people who look like other people only when they have a beard, but the actual original person doesn't have a beard.
So are we officially talking about the... Are we there? Oh, okay, all right.
So, John Paul II. Okay, before we dive too deep, because I have some things to say about that. So, first, we are going to pour this delicious
Oh, wait, I still got this.
spicy margarita.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to really talk about him. I was just trying to talk about the guy and his beard, and that he was played the Pope twice. So
You always have to talk about a guy with a beard because they grow it so you could talk about it.
They don't necessarily have to grow it. You don't know that it's real these days.
Right.
That could be AI.
yeah, beard.
It could be
You also remove them. Ask Henry Cavill.
It could be a chat GPT beard.
Mid-journey, give me a beard.
That's good. Thank you.
You guys know about that, right? So Henry Cavill played Superman, and so during the original reshoots for Justice League under Joss Whedon, they reshot his scenes, and he had he was playing a part that had a mustache. So in CGI, they had to remove his mustache.
They should. I mean,
Oh, it was terrible.
since he didn't do the right thing and remove it himself.
It was terrible. It was terrible. It was so terrible. Now, in his defense, Snyder, who did all the original shooting, had everything done. So Joss Whedon reshot a bunch of scenes that were not inside the original shot list. Okay. And nobody liked what happened. And let's face it, the original Justice League that came out was terrible. Well, subpar. Okay, it was subpar. I'll go that far. It was subpar. Not great. Joss Whedon's recut was fantastic. Like, my kids and I, because he did the brilliant move to cut into 4 different chapters, we were going to watch it in 4 chapters. So I sat down with my kids and we're like, we're going to rewatch the Snyder Cut in 4 sections. And it's going to be beautiful, right? And we sat down, we started watching it, and we watched the entire movie. It was so well done, so seamless, so beautiful. We watched the entire thing. It was great. There was no... masquerading that there was no mustache there because those scenes were not added.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
Superman with a mustache.
I feel like that mustache snafu is like the a really intense version of like a guy in the background of like I think it was like the Gladiator like wearing a wristwatch.
So what we are drinking. Members Mark, ready to serve spicy margarita.
That's this.
is crafted using the fantastic tasting Members Mark ready-to-serve golden margarita as the base. It's a refreshing, spicy take on the traditional golden margarita that uses natural jalapeno flavor to spice things up. This drink starts off with sweet notes, lime and jalapeno, followed by a spicy heat that builds on the finish. It's ready to serve, so all need to add ice. While our Members Mark ready-to-serve spicy margarita can be enjoyed over ice, we've thought of ways to amp the heat for a more exciting cocktail. Add the margarita mix, sliced jalapenos, fresh lime juice, and ice to a cocktail shake for 30 seconds and strain into a glass. Rub the rim of the glass with a wedge lime and dip into a small plate of salt.
Sounds so provocative.
They're just describing like regular making a margarita.
It really is, yeah.
Podcast over. I got to go home.
I will say, I did enjoy this. And I honestly, I am the biggest naysayer, okay? So for my daytime company, they know that. I came down hard on all the technology we brought out, and I didn't like what they were doing, and they proved me wrong. The technology worked. Members Mark brought out this margarita, this spicy margarita, and I thought, it's going to suck. But hey, I get it at a discount because it's Sam's Club. I'll try it. It's not bad. It's really not bad. It has that lime, limon flavor, and the spice is there, but it's not overbearing. Like it's
Picante.
It's almost symbiotic to a point.
That 1-2 punch, like I find myself every time I take a sip, I'm like, this is fun.
Yeah.
It's not amazing,
Yeah.
but it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's perfect for like a hot day like today, like we've been having.
Yeah. What I like about it is that the jalapeno shines through. It has that, the jalapeno has a slightly dirt flavor. I mean, I don't mean bad, but it has a slight dirt flavor to it. And it's real garden, right? It tastes like you pulled out of the garden, had a bite, right? That's how this tastes. Like you have that real, legitimate jalapeno flavor to it, which I did not expect.
Very refreshing. What's the alcohol percentage on this?
Oh, the alcohol is, hold on, let me run back up here to the top. It is a 12.7%. It's 12.7%.
Sip.
You might need that second drink here.
Right, tread safely.
It's lovely. I enjoyed this with one of my friends previously, so I did have one bottle previous to this. Over the course of about 2 or 3 weeks, we, interspersed it, but it was lovely. It was a nice, enjoyable mix. It wasn't too spicy. It wasn't overbearing. It's not overly sweet, but it's sweet enough to know it's a margarita. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I dig it. I think my wife would enjoy it too, actually.
My favorite thing about this is like, so you're reading that like intricate love letter to like an artisan margarita, and I look over, I'm like, there's no way he's reading that from samsclub.com. And I look over, and it's samsclub.com. That was perfect.
Yeah, no
words.
Shout out to Sam's Club and Costco, man. They're doing it these days for sure.
Yeah. And before the end of the night, we're going to try the seltzers as well. And I will reserve my comments for that time because I do have comments.
But to your point, Keith, man, it would be nice one day to talk to some of the people on our podcast who actually think this stuff up and write it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's one thing to make the drink. Like, of course, Sam's Club.
Yeah.
See, that margarita's already getting to me. So, of course, Sam's Club is going to make alcohol, but then to write about it in that way, I did not expect that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not bad, right?
Because then when you don't have it, you actually miss it. Like, you have feelings for it.
and it's good. Like I didn't think it would be good because I'm what the public doesn't know is I love margaritas.
Whoops. Now they know.
This is a beer podcast, and I love my good hearty beers.
I've been lying to you this whole time. Living a lie.
I do. I love.
Just in case I didn't know, we like to drink. Welcome to Margaritas over Brews.
I love my hazy IPAs. I love my my jalapeno IPAs. I love my stouts. I love my lagers. I love my pilsners. But I also do love a good margarita. And good margaritas can be very hard to find. There is my wife and I love to go down to this local restaurant. I'm going to leave names out of this. Mm-hmm. And the food there is great. The service is phenomenal.
What does it rhyme with?
Plueva. The service is great. The food's actually really good. My only complaint is that you can tell that they don't hand make the margaritas. I can tell you from the time that I sip it to the time I finish it, it is not a handmade margarita.
A man of discerning taste.
But there's another place that I love to go that my wife does not enjoy the food as much. I do, because I do love legitimate Mexican food, and this is more like legitimate Mexican food. Okay. And they hand make their margaritas. Phenomenal. Just amazing.
Can you tell us what this place rhymes with?
How bad you butcher this one.
It's okay.
La Plank. I'll make that as butchered American as I can.
Good job, LaPlank.
And they hand make their margaritas. They have a whole a whole tequila shelf. Like, it's legitimate. And their margaritas are phenomenal. So when I sit down and I sip on a margarita for an hour, I take one drink and I will sip on that sucker for an hour because it is so well made. It is like they're using legitimate tequilas, real triple sec, real ingredients, and it's phenomenal. And I love it.
So that margarita, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate it at?
Which one?
At LaPlank.
La Plank. Man, they are like, I would put them at about an 8. About 8 out of 10.
So that's a really good one. So what would you rate tonight's if you could?
Tonight's, because it is a premix, okay, because it's a premix, and you could tell that it is a premix, not that far down. I'd say 6 to 7.
Okay. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was thinking about a 6.
Because this does a really nice job of maintaining a consistent attitude of very well placed ingredients. Not just good ingredients, but very well placed ingredients. You have a bit of a nuanced flavor behind it when it comes to the margaritas and the triple sec, but the lime and the jalapeno have a forefront inside of it that you don't see from most premixes. So I have to put my hats off to whoever came up with the recipe because it's very good.
All right.
Very good. Especially for a premix, it's very good.
You could definitely write for samsclub.com.
Only if you're a member.
Would I buy this again? I did.
Well, there you go.
So there you go.
Nice.
All right. Now, diving into our subject matter, and we are snacking on popcorn because we are talking about a reviews episode tonight. Tonight we are talking about The Pope's Exorcist. Now, we've all seen the film. We've all watched the film. And I would like to first get the evangelical's view because he has a bit of a more nonpartisan view. That's why I want to go with it. As far as exorcism our practices, church history, and what we do. He's a bit more, I would say, non-biased in his opinion. So I'd like to get Gumby's opinion first before Keith and I speak.
Oh, that's before I really drink a lot. Now, are we going to do the trailer? Do you want to watch the trailer first?
Play it away.
Okay.
So we did Bluetooth in so you can hear the trailer. The trailer is actually really good. There's 3 versions of it. All of them, I think, are fairly well placed. I've enjoyed them all. And I do think all of them do injustice to the movie. We'll come back. Go ahead.
On the night of June 4th, you performed an exorcism.
That was not an exorcism. The majority of cases do not require an exorcism. 98% are recommended by him to doctors and psychiatrists. The other 2%, I call it evil.
We have more questions for you, Father Amort.
You have a problem with me? You talk to my boss, the Pope. There is a case that needs your attention. Bring me the priest.
I'm here to help, Julia.
Wrong priest. Take caution. There are secrets buried there. Is the Vatican sealed? The Church has fought against this demon before. The Vatican covered it up. We need to find out why. You've been played. You talk the bait. Whatever you do, you only do because God allows it. Did he allow that? Imagine what could happen if the devil possessed the soul of the Pope's exorcist. Who will defend you? My faith does not require defense.
Okay. So, Gumby, what did you think about the movie?
A lot of things. First of all, I have to gotta clear the air. I am a big Russell Crowe fan. He's great in everything he does.
Gladiator was amazing.
So, of course, yeah. So I was excited to see that this was coming out. And for the longest time, I know, Aaron, we've talked about getting a potential exorcist on our podcast. We got a few guys in mind that, we're really interested in doing. So, yeah, my closet fascinations I have with, that whole side of Catholicism and, probably made me look into this movie with a little bit more bias than I might usually have for Hollywood films. That being said, though, I think I wouldn't even know how to rate it. I thought it was a really good movie.
Okay.
Honestly, I did. I love how they kind of laid the groundwork for how the Catholic Church may approach the majority. What did they say? Like 95 or 90% of exorcisms, they don't even consider. They may, consult other doctors or a therapist or psychiatrist or whatever it is. I love the fact that, there's a vetted process that has to be done before it's just like, all right, grab your exorcist. This person's demon possessed. And so I do appreciate that. And I love that it has that historical piece to it that adds credibility to it. So You can't really knock that.
Yeah.
And they established that pretty well in the movie. On top of, even after the fact, that he was still, there was still accountability there, even though he was the Pope's exorcist. He can't just, exercise a chair if he wanted to or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
He's still accountable to certain things. So I really appreciate that piece about it. And we can go further on, but that's my initial thoughts.
Keith?
All right. I am going to rate the movie exactly as I rated this margarita mix, which is like not amazing, but fun.
Okay. All right. Say more.
So Russell Crowe's performance steals the show. Like there's maybe like a little bit of critique online about like his faux Italian accent, but he sounds great. Who cares? And he gives no F's in his performance. He lays it out, and just the swagger there is amazing. The movie itself, the plot, I feel like has an identity crisis at various points. Like it feels like the way they set it up, it's going to be kind of like one of those like new age, gritty, like faith-based flicks, like the ones that like get picked up by the mainstream studios, but like still retain a little bit of the heritage of like the low rent faith-based movies, where basically it's trying to like get the Christians and the Catholics in there, like, oh, they're representing us. But it quickly pivots between several different things. Like it pivots to, at various points, I think like a more traditional like Exorcist style movie. Okay. And then at other points, it gets a little bit into like a Da Vinci Code style conspiracy thing going on.
All right.
And then it ends up in like classic, like gritty, bloody horror flick. And I think like maybe it's like recency bias, but I feel like that was like its natural place to end up in terms of like where it maybe did the best. And that's why I think I had the most fun with it, is when I just like was like having fun with it, enjoying it as like one of those things. Like I actually like weirdly occasionally watch horror flicks when I can't sleep, which sounds really ironic, but like just like if it's keeping you on the edge of the seat and making, letting you have fun and not just like boring with you, like when are they going to get to kill everybody kind of thing. Like if it's pacing itself well, that like meets the criteria of like, this was worth my time. I mean, of course, nothing's worth my time. If I'm 4 a.m., I can't sleep. It'd be better if I just, took some melatonin and actually got to sleep, but that's another matter. So where it ended up with that, like, I feel like it kind of, in that sense, betrayed, like, having it branded the Pope's Exorcist, like having it based off of Father Amorth. Like, I feel like it actually would have been a little bit stronger towards the end if it was just like the saga of Father Kickass, basically. Like it's obviously setting itself up for like, you could just go like replay these like crazy adventures in the vein of, especially of the end of the movie, because basically you'd have to start the next movie at where the last one ended, which was like kind of crazy. I mean, I'm kind of going a little too far ahead there, but like in that sense, I feel like it didn't really need to be branded the way it was branded. And it could have just been like, here's an awesome exorcist. He does crazy crap. He's like old man Buffy the Vampire Slayer, basically.
Well, just a general summary, without going into details, because we'll cover details in a second. I enjoy the film specifically because it didn't make the Catholic Church look like a bunch of befuddled old idiots. It actually showed a fairly accurate depiction of the church. There were people that understood the spirituality of the church that backed Gabriella Amorth, and there were those that opposed him who were under a more, dare I say, liberal regime that didn't want to talk about the spiritual side. And there was this subtle nuance in between them. I mean, there's blatant ones as well, but there was this subtle nuance that jumped back and forth between them. I thought Russell Crowe played his hand very well in the way he handled the situations. And I put a big hats off to the script writers, because the script writers are the ones that create that scene, right? And that scene the scenes are very well played. I love the scene, though, where it's him sitting in front of the cabinet of people who are asking the questions, who are there to actually remove him from his positions. That screen was scripted beautifully. Beautifully. It was very well played. Russell Crowe / Gabriel Amorth was able to exert his position without overplaying his hand. And it was a beautiful way to display that, where he was able to show the character of the church, the character of an exorcist, the character of his position in the church as the exorcist, without coming off as either arrogant or overplayed, which both often take place. The other thing I loved is that it showed that there are struggles in the Catholic Church. Absolutely. And it showed the struggles, but it didn't make the Catholic Church look like a bunch of idiots. I was really worried that it would make the Pope / John Paul II look like a weak leader, and it didn't. It showed him as a spiritual leader who was in tune, not just with his leadership position, not just with making sure the right people were in place, but with understanding the spirituality of what was happening at the time. Like, there's times inside of the movie when he tells Gabriel Amorth / Russell Crowe that certain spiritual events are happening, and he knows it. He can feel it. He knows that they're happening. But it comes across as genuine rather than the ravings of an eccentric lunatic. So I have to give big props to the scriptwriters for being, for juggling both sides of that content, both for making it a little bit extraordinary, but still having the nuance to keep the decency of the church. So.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of expected, like with Russell Crowe, and I definitely see what Keith was saying, that, you know, it maybe at points it was just too Hollywood.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, but I couldn't see Russell Crowe really wanting anything to do with the movie unless it kind of was Hollywood. You know, otherwise, just do another Father Amorth documentary. We have plenty of those. You know, we don't need another just plain documentary about it. They wanted something like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Keith?
I mean, are we in like this? Are we clearly in the spoiler alert area?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, good.
Spoiler alert. You will hear everything.
You know, since it's great to just go for the end first and then kind of work your way back. Like, just in what you're reflecting, like, that overarching like message of like there's like people who don't take exorcism seriously and there are people who do, and like trying that tug of war, like especially when because at the beginning Father Amorth is at the Vatican, at the end he's back at the Vatican, kind of re-adjudicating this after he's had this big experience doing a really serious exorcism. And that's probably one of like the most like true to like the book that they licensed for this thing, like his autobiography kind of, or his description of exorcisms in his books. Like that's probably the most true to the thing in the movie is that tug of war. I feel like at the end it got undercut a little bit because like that end that we're describing in so many words, that's the big Hollywood piece. That's where you go from like psychological thriller with, you know, some weird supernatural stuff to like popular succubi in the basement and open portals to hell with fire coming out of them and possessed priests and all these weird crazy things. So like if the point was to say to the skeptics in the Vatican that exorcism is legit, that there's like real spiritual battles going on, like it's kind of undercut by being like, well, of course, I could just tell you about the topless succubi and the portal opening to hell and look at the singe marks on my pants. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like there, like it's, I'm trying to think of an analogy here. It's like seeing all the stuff, like what was that thing where all the people disappeared in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? I forget what they called that.
Oh,
The Snap.
Yeah, the snap where like half the world disappeared.
Right.
And then you're like trying to talk to somebody later as if like you're just trying to explain like, oh yeah, superheroes exist and Thanos exists, and like you're not even like addressing the fact that half the people disappeared and that person on the other side of the room clearly knows that. Like it's just like so obvious.
Yeah, you're right. There is a specific term they had for that. I forgot.
Spoiler.
Right. Well, you spoiled a couple movies there.
How many movies can we ruin right here?
Spoiler on spoiler.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. But however, I think each of our views going into this, me as being, the non-Catholic in the room, I'd like to really hear, your guys's, I guess, let me ask you this, because I think this would definitely affect how one watches the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Do you really believe that exorcism is an actual thing, that there have been real legitimate exorcisms that have and still take place? We do have exorcists today.
Yes.
Who do, maybe not as quote unquote Hollywood or Russell Crowe may do it in the movie. But if you truly believe that happens today and that has happened and that people do need it, I do think that would affect the way you watch the movie.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that's why I'm like, I really been interested in the whole idea of exorcism and whether or not people need some kind of deep spiritual work done. So that's why I'm more inclined to
touch on that.
The movie.
To touch on that, so the movie was accurate in stating that Gabriella Amorth created the Association of Exorcists. That was true. He did do that under the guidance of John Paul II. That's 100% true. There's also another one as well, which is nearly as big. So,
well, but you as a Catholic, and then you, Keith, as a Catholic, do you firmly believe that exorcisms are real and still need to be done? That's what I want. Before you even tell me about the movie,
I'll put it to you this way: there are more secular psychoanalysts around the world right now than ever before. And they are requesting exorcism.
Okay, so you do believe in them?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Keith,
even the secular world is requesting it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
To get into a short answer I'll unpack later, while I cannot uniformly deny that it's ever necessary, I think the way exorcism is described, especially by the few exorcists who are willing to talk about it openly, like it follows a lot of parallel patterns of other spiritual abuse. So I'm very skeptical when folks say it's necessary.
All right. Yeah. Well, cool. I appreciate the honesty, really. I just want to know how we're each going into how we kind of filter watching a movie like this,
I participated in an exorcism.
Uh-oh. Oh, we got a whole other podcast coming up.
And this is back when I was a Protestant. So, all right, I'll try to make this as short as I can. Most our listeners will know that I grew up under a parental figure that overexerted their ideas of Christianity and were rather abusive in their approach. So I was rather lax to say that Christianity was 100% correct. But when I ran away from home, I did run to a church because it was the closest place I knew that would take me in. Convenience. And so I lived with a pastor, and he was very evangelical, more on the Pentecostal side, but he was very open-minded to the regular Baptist side as well. Mm-hmm. So he was very good. He towed the line between the evangelical, jumping around Pentecostal side, along with the more mainstream Reformed side. So he towed the line very well. So big hats off to him. He was very good in that. And there was a kid who came in, and all of a sudden he started foaming at the mouth. And he started convulsing. And out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere. And so he started praying over him. And then, of course, several of us jumped in and started praying over him as well. And we went through this whole exorcism process. Till eventually his body relaxed and he confirmed that whatever was with him was gone. And the part that really, really stuck with me is the pastor didn't stick around. As soon as the exorcism was done, he looked at him and then walked out. And that stuck with me. So afterwards, I came back to him and I said, "Hey, what's up with, are you okay? You just walked out afterwards." He said, "That's the third time he's come in for an exorcism. And if he keeps going back to that same place, he keeps meeting with Satanists on the beach over in Geneva. Every single time he comes back, he's worse. And every single time, it's harder to exorcise him. Because according to Scripture, every single time, there's 7 more demons." He said, so according to Scripture, every single time the exorcism is going to be harder. And he said, every time he comes back, it's more difficult. I can't help him down the road if he keeps going this way, because eventually it's going to reach a point where I can no longer exorcise him. And that's why I walked away.
Yeah.
So
fascinating. I'm personally inclined to believe that things like that should happen. On the Protestant side, we have something similar. I remember what
he was Protestant.
Okay, yeah. The guy we had on our show, A Clean House. I can't remember the.
Oh, Douglas Overmeyer.
Yeah,
great guy.
Kind of a similar ministry. Not exactly like an exorcism, but along the same lines. I think we call it deliverance, where it's essentially you're peeling back. Even what you think about in the movie with Russell Crowe, you're peeling back layers and layers of lies and deceptions that these people believe about themselves, to the point where they physically manifest. And you're just peeling those things off, till you realize that, all right, this is who God says I am, and this is who I am in Christ. And so there, that does exist on the Protestant side. It's different. But I am inclined to believe that something like that on a deeper spiritual level should happen, especially in today's society.
So I can't go into details. Douglas Overmeyer and I worked together recently.
Uh-oh.
On something. And it was because somebody was being I don't think it was I don't think it was possession. I think it was more an infestation. So he and I worked together recently to help somebody. And I diverted everything over to him because of the situation, and we needed immediacy on it. And from the feedback I got from my friend, it worked. So, but we worked together on a case recently to help somebody. Okay. And Doug's legit.
Yeah. Well, going back to the movie, one of the things that struck me early on about possessions was, when they were trying to establish the narrative. Unfortunately, I think it may have came too late, really, to hammer that home. But in a way, it did kind of close it when at the end they showed that map, and he expressed, this was the name of that demon was Asmodeus. And the younger priest was kind of shocked, like that's only one. This wasn't like it. We didn't just do it and like now the world is great. No, he's like 1 to 200. And so that part of the fallen angels has always fascinated me. How many there were, and how they have dominion over certain regions of the world.
Yeah.
And you really have an issue of authority and jurisdiction. You know, that's always fascinated with me. I mean, certain demons or fallen angels, quote unquote, can't go to other areas and mess with people or possess people or do certain things. They have jurisdiction issues.
Yeah.
It's a hierarchy, right?
Yeah.
You know, like they have their own council. Mm-hmm. I think one of the movies that I pointed out before that kind of really illustrated that is A Winter's Tale with, oh gosh, who's the guy that's in it? Anyways, it's A Winter's Tale. Will Smith is in the movie.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. He plays the devil.
Oh, nice.
And it's kind of a love story, but Russell Crowe's also in the movie. He's an ancient demon trying to get someone. And they go all throughout time, but essentially, you know, big spoiler alert, the movie's amazing. It's a slower paced movie, but Russell Crowe approaches Will, says, you gotta let me pass this certain jurisdiction because I'm so close to getting him now and we can be done with this. And Will Smith, the devil, is irate. He's like, you know our laws. You know that even I only have so much authority. We can't do it. And, you know, there's just this impasse, and Russell Crowe wanted to, like, break the chain of command, that kind of thing. So the whole idea of jurisdiction and authority always fascinated with me, with even the fallen side.
I think you described perfectly why, like, there's obvious sequel potential here, but also why I think, like, tying it to Father Amorth and not just making it like a purely fictional Exorcist was kind of like a flaw in that vision. Like, just imagine like a book series or a movie series that goes through the demons of each region and what they do and how they're defeated. Like just imagine for a second thinking about, like, what are the demons of Cleveland, Ohio, or something like that.
Yeah.
And like a movie just about that. And like the immediacy and also like the like higher minded spiritualityness of that all, like it really could engage people on several different levels to tell a story like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I feel like that's what they kind of did at the end. It was like, hey, this whole map thing, we just got this little guy here. That's it.
They told that they could tell a story about that.
Right. So
Could mess with your head a little bit.
yeah.
You know, he's in the Bible.
How many movies can we pull out while Russell Crowe's still among us?
I was also fascinated by that little emblem he had. Mm-hmm. And it kind of goes back to the I guess to the authority thing, because it worked on the quote unquote first demon that got thrown into the pig, the very opening scene. Mm-hmm. But it didn't work on.
Ooh, we'll come back to that.
It didn't work on. What's this demon's name again? Asmodeus? Asmodeus. Okay. We'll come back to it. All right.
So, I'm going to mess with your head a little bit. Did
Won't
you
be
know
that hard.
Asmodeus is in the Bible?
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which book?
The Old Testament.
Correct.
It's gonna be one of those Catholic books, isn't it? No.
Keith, which book?
I have no freaking clue.
Is it the same name or is it a different spelling or?
No. Totally different name. Tobias. See, it's not a Protestant book.
I knew. I got that part right.
So, Tobias has been a book from ancient times. The Jews have always regarded it as a very sacred book. For 1,800 years, it was regarded as a sacred book. In fact, even the Dead Sea Scrolls is one of the most highly regarded books. We have one of the most copies of Tobias. But Protestants throw it out. So, Asmodeus is the king of hell. Asmodeus is the one that tries to trick not just Tobias, but his son and the angel Raphael. So, Asmodeus is actually a very powerful demon in the Old Testament in the book of Tobias. And that's why he plays such a huge role inside this movie.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So the woman that his son wants to wed, every night he comes into the bedchamber, and whenever she gets married, he kills her husband before they have a chance to consummate the marriage. This happens 7 times. And then she meets Tobias' son. And when that happens, the angel that masqueraded as his friend for the whole trip tells him to use a special... I'm going to ask everybody to go back and read this book, so I'm not going to tell you the spoilers. I want everybody who's listening to this podcast...
Wait, we're not spoiling the Bible anymore?
I want everybody who's listening to this book to go back and read the book of Tobiah. So I am not going to tell you all the details because I want you to read the book yourself. He uses a special ingredient to trick the demon. And when that happens, he gets to consummate his relationship. And then they get to go home and cure their father's illness. Again, no spoilers. Read the book yourself. It's a very ancient text. You need to read the story. There is so many morals involved in this story. Go back and read the book of Tobias. Tobit.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
There's so much weird sex stuff in the Bible.
Yeah, but it's far deeper than that. It's far deeper than sex stuff. Read the book of Tobit.
And also,
This is just a vehicle.
this Catholic, every time I hear Tobias, I just think of David Cross wearing nothing but short jean shorts.
Wait, what?
Arrested Development, Tobias Funke, Never Nudes. Sorry.
That's your own twisted imagination. So, Gumby.
Spoils everything.
I ruined the Bible.
At the start, when it comes to the pig,
Uh-huh.
I love that scene, but not probably for the same thing that you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Keith, I want your input here before I go any further. What did you think about that scene?
I honestly didn't think that much about it. I was like, this is like generic, setting the stage that this is an exorcist.
Okay. Gumby?
Well, my initial observations about the scene, other than the symbol thing he used, was I love the fact that he asserted authority over it.
Okay.
Was trying to find out its name and realized this thing couldn't figure out its name, so he realized it was like a low-level demon.
Okay.
And then I think I appreciated the fact that before he even went into the room with the boy, he made the little girl at the table praying nonstop.
Pater Noster.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I thought, oh, wow, that's essential.
Yeah.
Someone's got to be praying constantly
100%. That is true.
for that to happen.
Yes.
So, yeah, those are my initial observations before it actually happened. And
The script was written brilliantly.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. It was not a demon. He had a mental malady. What it was, who knows? But it was a mental malady. Possibly an infestation, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Was not possession. Pay very close attention to what he says in the beginning when he walks in. Do they own a TV?
yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. So he immediately knew that it was not a possession. It was a mental malady. And what he did was theatrics. There was no demon present. As far as Russell Crowe is concerned, there was no demons. He cured his mental illness.
Interesting. So he made the person who thought he was under spiritual possession cure himself.
Yes.
Which is why he was able to evade accountability back at the Vatican,
Yes.
because he didn't actually perform an official.
Interesting.
He did not.
Ah.
He did not. And that's why he clarifies that. Because what he did, like I said, theatrics. I just simply need them to believe that they were no, not possessed anymore.
Russell's good because he made the guy believe that and the pig because that pig was squealing.
Yeah. It was all theatrics.
What's the significance of the TV?
Because
He learned English.
yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the for everyone's clarity? Because actually, frankly, I don't even know. What's the difference between a possession and an infestation?
Ooh, that's a very good question. So there are several stages when it comes to possession. The first is actually just simply a bothersome, not even infestation, but more like an infiltration. And that's where they bother you. Okay. Infestation is what they can actually manifest, right? So they manifest around you and things happen around you. Things can move. They could cause certain thoughts in your head. They could cause your mood to shift.
Right. Scratching, knocking, all those.
Yeah. Infestation can cause things to manifest.
Mm-hmm.
It's that next stage. Possession is when it takes control of you and you no longer have control of your own faculties. So there's stages to that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's interesting about it, I remember listening to Father Carlos.
Oh, Carlos Martins, yes.
Yeah, his podcast
Great
is
father.
really cool. I don't know if you heard his
Oh, it's
podcast.
fantastic. The Exorcist Files.
Yes, he goes through his
Amazing podcast that we endorse.
he goes through his own experiences. I'm pretty sure he uses fictitious names out of respect and privacy for the people.
Yeah.
But one of the things he always reiterates on several of his podcasts is that there can't really be a possession unless invited. Again, that whole issue of authority. They have no authority just to come and possess you unless there's some kind of, invitation and you invite them in, or whether that's conscious or not. I think there's a little bit of gray area because I know significant trauma.
Yeah.
Some people may not even know that they realize they give that authority away.
True.
Whether like through sexual abuse as a big one that he mentioned, whatever kind of abuse or hurt a person may go through. In the boy's case in the movie, that was viewing his father be killed and decapitated, giving that demon the authority to possess him. Right?
Yeah.
Fascinating. The whole issue of authority.
It is fascinating. And so now you're touching on one of my qualms with the Pope's Exorcist.
Oh boy, he said qualm.
So one of the qualms I had with the Pope's Exorcist is that they never actually expand on why the boy was possessed. They touch on ideas of why he might be possessed, but they never find out why he's possessed. They're like, well, he saw his father dead. Okay, well, that can play into it. That could leave an opening. That trauma could leave, an opening for that spirit to manifest or take over. But it doesn't mean it will. So, how did that demon possess him? Because they never touch on that. That is a huge plot hole. How did the demon possess the boy? They never actually explain that.
Like, it feels like the larger mover and all that ultimately ends up becoming like the building itself. So
no, that's not how possession works. That's
right, exactly.
That's
I'm not saying how it works, but it seems like they're trying to almost like be like, well, right place, right time.
Infestation.
Yeah,
that's infestation. That's not possession.
Well, the building was infested for sure.
Well,
Infested.
it could also be a poltergeist too. So
I do think he had that initial opening right through the trauma. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that the mom said when she was being interviewed early on was that home had been in her husband's history for a long time.
Yep.
Which went back, I can't remember how long, to the Inquisition?
Yes. Well, ish. Yes.
Not necessarily her husband, but for his lineage, but it was in his...
It's history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a history there. Yeah. So, they were just looking for a way in to get to the Catholic Church, which goes back to his initial qualm, if I may use the word, about the whole narrative piece and tying it all together. the demon Asmodeus wasn't necessarily looking to possess the boy as much as
Right.
it was looking to infiltrate the Catholic Church.
Yes.
I think this is where you see like a movie is kind of a group project, and like a lot of things can take different terms based on like what's practically possible, like, you know, where you get kind of trapped with a script. So we can see like a very like precise needle threaded with that initial pig scene, and then we can see it give way to like, well, we've got a big scary building and we have to move this big scary
Right,
building thing in
right,
motion.
right.
So the boy's dad died and he's gonna get possessed.
We connect it here, so let's connect it here. Let's connect it. But that's essentially what it was. Asmodeus had ties to that land historically.
But that doesn't. So, inside the Exorcist's ideas, that doesn't leave possession as an option. Yes, poltergeists. Yes, definitely infestation. But full possession must be achieved through allowance.
So, and the point of that, when it happened, right, the boy didn't become fully possessed until those construction workers knocked through that portal, that door.
Yeah.
And instantly, when they knocked through, that methane release explosion happened, like the boy became possessed,
Right.
right?
Hollywood.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean,
When you put it out there, this is kind of a train wreck.
There's no other way to explain that but Hollywood.
yeah. Well, think about it, though. I mean, when I, again, listening to some of these other podcasts, nobody who gets possessed, I mean, very rarely, and I'd have to go through all the podcasts and listens, does anyone say, devil, I give you permission to come and possess me and blah, 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 that kind of thing.
Oh, no, there's a lot more than you think. This is where I have to give huge kudos to the show Evil, which we still have to do the review for season 2 and season 3.
Yeah.
And we should do those back-to-back episodes. We should do back-to-back season 2 and season 3. They do cover that.
They may, and again,
They do.
there may be those situations, but again, as far as I've listened to all these exorcists speak, again, the invitation for someone to be possessed is usually subconscious. It's usually through hurt. It's not usually a verbal, "Hey, here's
Door.
please
It's a
come."
door.
It's usually indistinguishable from other psychological trauma.
There's that argument,
So-
no doubt.
Spoiler, and please make sure that no children in the room. I will equate this to rape. Okay? So in rape, a lot of times women and men are seduced into their position. Okay? It seems like it's consensual, but it is a slow build-up to where the other person gets what they're looking for, okay, which is complete dominion over that person. It's complete and utter sexual dominion over that person. It's the conquering of that person down to the base level. I will say that possession is very much like rape. And just like, it's hard to say this, just like well-planned. Wow, it's really hard to play this. Well-planned
You got to say now.
trafficking.
Okay.
It's done in a manner that seems like you're agreeing to it. But in the end, you realize they just simply debased you. They took everything you had. They raped you right down to the base level. Your mind, your soul, your body. That's what possession is. You think that you're going along with it, but you're actually being seduced and subjected to the assault.
You're saying that person possessed whoever the victim may be there, in that sense. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that. I mean, initially, before we ever found out who in the movie is possessed, or before they unraveled or unpacked any of the characters. When we just see them driving, right, the mom, the little boy, and the daughter, out of the three, if we had to guess who was the one that was going to be possessed, who would you guess, though? It's not. We all thought it was going to be the girl.
Absolutely.
The young daughter.
Absolutely.
Her attitude
Hands
was,
down.
she was
teenager.
seductive.
Yep.
She,
Smoking.
I thought she was going to try to seduce one of the construction workers. Right. All of these things. And the mom had, you can't dress like that in front of the workers because we're not back in America. All these kind of things that kind of set it up a little bit as if, all right, something's going to happen. The devil's going to take over this girl.
Well played writing. So
that's why I'm trying to say that whenever I hear stories of possession, at least from like Father, the Exorcist files or other things that I've seen like on YouTube or whatever, it's usually from people who aren't like that.
Right.
It's usually people who, subconsciously don't even know that they have an invitation open. They don't even know. They have such a open wound, however that may be.
Yeah.
Whether through rape or, sometimes I think in my indirect family, it's a generational thing.
Yeah. And the experiences that lead you to where you are, the human experience is very individual. Mm-hmm. Some people rise from adversity, right? I often tell my fighters, so I train a whole stable of fighters in Muay Thai. And we'll refill in a second.
Okay.
I often say that adversity is the forge that creates warriors, right? So adversity is the forge that creates warriors. You will rise to the occasion if you can. And if you can't, you're not a warrior. And unfortunately, there is that side of it. There is a very base level. There's a very hunter-gatherer level where you are the alpha or you are the, some will say beta. I would say the omega. You're all the way on the other end. You're not even contributing to the welfare of the pack. And there is that in life, right? You have people who are out there every day creating market revenue for their group, their family, their community. And you have those who live off the system and go home and play games. So, you have that in life and you have that in the spiritual life. You really do.
I find it interesting that the only other person in the movie who could be possessed was the daughter.
Well, she was possessed eventually in the movie.
Yeah,
she was.
I was actually going to ask you guys, so do you think she was possessed just because of like the building? I know we're saying that isn't real possession, but clearly the people who made the movie thought it was. Mm-hmm. Or was she possessed because she was into smoking and rock and roll?
No. I think, there were just, spiritual openings that she wasn't conscious of. And I think most of it probably was directly.
Destruction.
Yeah. I think a lot of it had to do with grief with the loss of their father.
Yeah. Well, and
in such a traumatic way.
Those are the doors that he said from the beginning were the openings.
Yeah.
They allowed for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go grab our next round of drinks.
All right.
I'm going to allow Gumby to play whatever he wants or talk about whatever he wants while I grab our drinks.
I hope smoking doesn't invite the devil.
I'm just waiting to get into my this is all psychological manipulation rant, but I feel like that should happen after I start sipping a second drink.
Fighting you, Keith.
Keith, even your own Catholic Church, the majority people would probably agree with you, honestly.
Maybe. It depends on the locale.
Yeah, maybe.
Now, this is actually a little interesting taste. Is like Okay, so we're talking the concepts of an exorcist trying to, deal with a clear case of possession. In the Catholic world and in the Christian world in the general, and in the United States especially, we throw around the word demonic a lot for a lot of things, very casually on the internet without investigating them all, and that affects how we look at people. That affects how we relate to other people, and it affects violence that occurs against certain groups of people. People have died and will continue to die and are dying right now because of them being labeled as demonic. That's happened all throughout our history in the United States and, of course, beyond, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that allegation, it's very easy to casually categorize something you don't like as demonic, and it's very easy to get a group of people with pitchforks to go after the demonic thing, quote unquote.
I fully agree with you 100%. I am sure there were a ton of very innocent women during the Salem witch trials who probably, were burnt at the stake for having quote unquote independent thought.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought it. I forgot about the example. That's like the example 1A in the history of the United States.
Like a woman who can think for herself, or has critical thinking skills, or actually didn't just want to do whatever they said she should do at the time, or practicing, actually, when I think about some of my family, a couple generations ago, like my mom and even her mom and her grandmother who have native ancestry in Puerto Rico, and how they used to practice medicine, it probably would have been considered like witchcraft stuff. It was very...
Your last name was Pagan, right?
Pagan. Pagan. Pagan.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
The nose.
Yep. So, there's... And I brought this up only one other time on the podcast, but, there's legends that my grandfather, when he worked at tobacco fields in Puerto Rico, that he was so tired one time working the tobacco fields, and my mom would help him go behind him as he laid the seeds for tobacco. She would help lay the pesticides behind him. That he was so tired of doing this and looking at my mom and seeing, that he has to bring his children out here to do this, that he made a pact with the devil on the fields to help him get to America.
Huh.
And so, long story short, they made it to America, and it hasn't been an easy life for my family, so to speak. And you could say that, a lot of poor choices that they have made without having a lot of resources. But a lot of my family also thinks that it was a spiritual thing that also has been attributed to it. So. So, yeah, but I agree with you. I mean, a lot of people use that term for, whatever they want.
Trials just made me think of, this could be a whole episode. I mean, we're in the midst of the Shiny Happy People documentary about the Duggars and the IBLP kind of pseudo cult. It just recently came out on Amazon Prime, and that talks about the history of the Duggars and also of the Institute for Basic Life Principles, which was this very severely strict religious cult. And one of the most interesting things, like even if you heard the entire Duggar story that this documentary goes through, is they actually interview for the first time a lot of survivors from other IBLP affiliated families. One of the most moving stories in there, just low key, like it kind of just passes and you're just like, holy crap, that was crazy, is a woman talking about how she got locked in an empty room for 4 days because she bought tampons. So just imagine a woman doing basic woman stuff and the spiritual leader being like, that's the devil coming in here. Get that out of here. Go in a room until you are purified.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, what we're drinking.
Here's a few
Keith
thoughts.
ruins everything.
At one time there was a book series called Aaron Ruins Everything, and that was it's based around Aaron the alligator. Now, I'm going to pass the torch to Keith.
What's that show called? Something ruins.
Adam.
Adam ruins everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. You know.
Adam Conover.
Join us in part 2 for the rest of the conversation.